Good morning, you brood of vipers. I hope you repent. In today's reading in Matthew, it reminded me of a classmate in seminary who hated when her food touched. Like she could not have the spaghetti sauce wander over to her bread, so she'd have to grab a whole separate plate. Everything had to stay in its own little zone, in its own little plate. And a lot of us treat the faith the same way. We separate our lives into neat categories. Church stuff on one plate, real life on another. Sunday me over here, Monday through Saturday me over there. I have my church friends and my regular friends. And I can't be the only one who called my non-church friends regular friends. We had the Jesus part of our lives, the spiritual, and we had everything else, the secular. But when we call one part of our life spiritual, we imply that the rest of our life somehow doesn't count. And here's the truth of it. When we divide life into spiritual and secular, we end up shrinking God down to the size of our categories, and God refuses to fit. King David asks in the Psalms, "Where can I go from your presence?" And the answer is nowhere. If God is everywhere, then God isn't waiting for you to enter a holy space. God is already in the space that you are in. And Jesus lived like that. He kept turning the wrong places into holy places, boats, kitchens, dinner tables, weddings, funerals, cemeteries even. Wherever he stood became holy ground because he was there. And Advent tells that same story. God doesn't show up at the temple with the insiders. God shows up in the wilderness with John the Baptizer, a man who eats locusts and honey, and the honey was probably just to wash down the taste of locusts. The point is, God keeps showing up where we don't expect, not where we have labeled something as spiritual. So maybe stop dividing your life into segregated categories. Maybe stop assuming God is only in the church parts of your week. Because if God is everywhere, then everything you live through is spiritual. Your work, your joy, your exhaustion, your questions. God isn't asking to meet you in the perfect parts of your life. God is meeting you in the real parts. That's the whole story of Advent. God shows up in the places we never think to look and calls them holy, including your life right now as it is. So go into this week expecting God everywhere because God already is.